Well, welcome everyone to Fabulous After 50. Now, I am absolutely delighted to welcome today fellow coach and co-worker at the International Association of Professional Coaches and Mentors, Sue Headley. And Sue worked for decades in IT, then decided it was time for her to run her own business. And it is dedicated to helping women in midlife change course. So when better, she says, to change course than in midlife? So today we go into the why and the how with top tips spoken not only from years of expertise and training, but also from her own experience. But let's start first of all. Sue, if you could, just run us a little bit through why you do what you do, how you got to be doing this, and maybe a little bit about where you live. So you live in Wales, right?
Absolutely. I live in the absolutely beautiful North Wales, moved up here about 6 years ago. That was all part of my sort of change of life, change of pace, all those sorts of things. So yes, I'm very, very happy and lucky to be up here.
It sounds
Um,
glorious.
yes,
I'm originally, as I said once, from Wales as well, so I'm always
yeah,
happy to hear that. And you're a mother
great.
of three grown-up boys, right?
Yes, got three amazing sons. And yeah, that is just probably the best thing I've ever done.
Funny,
And
yeah.
the most rewarding, yes. And every time they pick up a phone and want to have a chat with you, because they want to, not because you're forcing them to.
Right.
Gosh, isn't that a wonderful gift, you
Exactly.
know?
And that's what Sue and I were talking before about
Mm,
the power of connection with our children afterwards, and also
yeah.
realizing that lots of the things that we weren't sure went through did go through. And
Yeah.
it is that special age, right, where they're grown up as well, or on
Mm,
their way to being grown up, and where you have that really blessed connection, but which we do need to make happen. Right. Okay. So Sue, so
mm.
you were in the IT world, if I understood well, for a long
Ab-
time, right?
Absolutely. Yes, I worked on global IT projects for sort of large pharmaceutical companies for about 20 years. Yeah.
Right.
And I loved the work and I was really good at it. I could hold all the information in my head, intense sort of detail and timelines and pressure when you're bringing on countries all around the world and all that kind
Wow.
of thing. So, and I worked in different roles. I was training, I was running sort of quality teams, I was doing also business change management, all sorts of things. Loved it. And I was really in my element. And and then something changed. And I kind of refused to acknowledge it to begin
Right.
with for quite a few years. But I was finding it hard to deal with the cycles. It gets very busy, it's very cyclical. I just kept saying to myself, I'll make it different on the next project, on the next
Right.
kind of round of activity. And I I never really quite managed to do that. And
Right.
what I realize now is, of course, I was going through the perimenopause and then
Right.
kicking fully into the menopause.
So how old were
Uh,
you then, more or less?
Sort of like by the time it really got to sort of to become evident something was going on, I was sort of probably very late 40s, early 50s.
Right.
So I
Right.
was really well into the menopause at that point. And I rather stupidly just stuck my head in the sand,
Oh, yeah.
and
But it
what
must be
is
scary. It's all you knew. You'd been in there for 20 years and
Yeah, yeah. And when you say to yourself, I'm tough, I can deal with this, I can just be completely blinkered and refuse to admit that it's happening. Well, that was a silly thing to do. And
yeah.
anybody out there who's tempted to do the same thing, please don't.
That's a
And
good message. So it's really
oh,
tune into yourself and
yeah,
realize,
exactly.
why
Yeah.
why put yourself through torture for
Yeah.
another, 10 years or 15 years if
Absolutely. And, for me, I got to the point when I thought, I'm going to have a mental breakdown if I don't do something different. It was that bad. And my confidence got lower and lower and lower and
oh,
lower, and it happens anyway, often during the menopause, doesn't it,
right,
Julie?
right, definitely,
Where we kind of
definitely.
lose touch with our gifts, our
Yeah.
talents, our
And
skills.
it's a very confusing period. I
Oh,
always feel it
mm,
is like adolescence in reverse, right?
absolutely.
In
Isn't it
adolescence,
just?
you're confused. What's happening to my
Oh,
body? I'm not reacting like I used to
yeah.
react. You're a bit like this gremlin in you. Okay, now we
Yes.
have the age and the confidence to maybe not see it that way. But
Yeah.
suddenly, everything that we did doesn't work.
Absolutely.
Everything that we thought we were,
Yes.
suddenly we're reacting in ways where we're a bit like, where did that come from?
Yes.
It's upsetting because you think you've got it
Mm.
all sorted out by 50, right? You think you know
Yeah,
yourself and you know what's
exactly.
good, and
Yes.
suddenly
Yeah.
something that you can't
Yeah.
control is happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, what would you say? It's really tuning in and acknowledging what it is, right?
Yes. Yes. Acknowledging that something is changing. Looking back now, I can see, and it's what my coaching is all about with the people I work with, which is it's a
Yeah,
gift.
yeah.
It's a real gift. I've had ladies come to me for coaching and they've gone, do you know what? I've spent the last 20 years doing 4-pack lunches before 9 o'clock, 2 loads of washing, walking the dog. And by the time I get to the office, I'm exhausted,
Yes, yes,
you know,
yes,
and I don't want to do that anymore. And
yes.
I'm just going, hallelujah,
Right.
great.
But so
What
how did you
now?
make that step? Because I mean, there's one thing to
Mm,
realize that things are going wrong, and
yes.
the other
Yeah.
thing then to realize if I don't get out of this now,
Yeah.
I'm really going to crumble. But then there's
Yeah.
another big step to decide about creating a business, what sort of business. How did you
Oh,
go about that
absolutely.
then?
Yeah. Well, what happened for me was I first of all I got some counseling. I've got a wonderful
Right,
husband, and he was so supportive, and he's very insightful as well. And he said to me, "I will always support you, but I need some help,"
right.
which was an amazing thing to
That
say.
is an amazing
So
thing to
I
say.
thought, yeah, a fair point. He does have a fair point. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go get some counseling. I realized that apart from the physical stuff, a lot of it was my own sort of mental baggage. I had a really traumatic childhood, single parent, mental problems, alcohol, all that kind of stuff. So you
Right?
end up with baggage. And I
You
hadn't
do.
really properly dealt with it.
Mm.
So worked with a counselor and then found out about life coaching. And that was the aha moment. I realized how powerful it was.
Right. Well,
Um,
how beautiful
and
that you took something then and then decided to make that your profession. And what you
yeah,
say is also very true about the baggage. I think I was a bit taken aback by that myself. I went through
really.
another round this summer. Actually, I wasn't feeling so great this summer. And I was a bit
Yeah,
confused because I'm a
yeah.
summer girl, right? I'm born in July, the sun was shining.
Uh,
But I was going through an awful lot of stuff, and I
mm,
realized that we can bury stuff. We can say mind over
oh,
matter, get on
yes.
with it,
Yeah, yeah.
at some point it needs to be faced, right? Doesn't mean that you need to dwell in it, but you need
No.
to look at it, you need to acknowledge it and say, okay, I hear you. Whatever
Mm,
happened, I accept it. I
yeah,
can't change it. But so that's how you got to coaching. And coaching is, yeah, I mean, I'm a coach too. Of course, we
of
know each
course.
other from the IPCNM, but it's that whole idea. I mean, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do psychotherapy, etc. But what I like so much about the coaching is this is it is forward
Mm,
looking. It's okay.
yes,
We have all of this.
absolutely. Yeah,
Now, what do we
yeah,
want and how can we bring it about?
exactly. I've got quite a few clients who come to me and they've had counseling, and
Right.
they come and really aligned with what you're saying. They're like, I know, I understand more why
Right.
I'm triggered and what's caused me to feel like this, but I still haven't moved forward from it.
Right.
And that's
Exactly.
where the coaching comes in, isn't it,
Exactly.
Julie?
It is indeed. It is indeed.
As
And
you
I think
say.
I also personally just know too many people who've been stuck for 30, 35 years
Oh,
in
yes.
the, in reliving it. And I'd be like,
Oh,
for goodness sake, if it was something you didn't enjoy, put it behind you, here's
yes,
the button,
absolutely.
scream, cry, get therapy or but then work out, okay, knowing all of that,
Yeah,
how do I live now? What sort of a life do you
yeah,
want?
yeah,
So, but then did you
absolutely.
know quite soon that you wanted your coaching to be about helping women like you?
It took me a while. I mean, my overriding emotion when I started coaching was I didn't want any woman sitting at her desk crying like I was, literally.
Right,
That was the emotion behind what I
right.
wanted to do. But how you put that into a coherent
Yeah.
coaching business strategy, that took a little while, and working with a few different coaches. So my message out there to any coach who's listening to this is your niche may evolve. Just start
Yes,
with the
exactly.
emotion.
Exactly.
That's your why, because you don't want
Very,
people
very true. I mean, mine's
to
fabulous
start.
after 50, but obviously that was not my niche when I started out at 38 or
No,
whatever it was. Yeah,
no,
right.
absolutely. um
Okay. So
yeah.
what sort of women come to you?
Okay. Well, typically they're women in their 40s, mid 40s onwards, and 50s. I do also have some women who are in their early 60s,
Yes,
because,
of course. Yeah.
that it's just as relevant.
Ah,
You're in that second phase of life and you want to
exactly.
do something that matters to you for a
Right.
change.
Right.
So women maybe that have been forced by circumstances, made redundant, or companies been bought out by another company and they don't like the culture anymore. They don't
Right.
feel like they fit in. They don't want to be there. I had one lovely client who had moved geographically. Her husband had
Right.
taken semi-retirement. So, and then she was, well, I need to get another job, but actually all the jobs I'm looking at are in line with the things I've been doing.
Yeah.
I don't want to apply
There's
for, so I'm
something
just
else.
really
Yeah.
stuck. So different circumstances
And it
bring.
is, as you say, that I liked what you said, do something for me, as in, because I think a
Mm,
lot of us, well, especially those of us who are, 50, 60, whatever now,
yeah,
we were very ingrained in, you go to school and then, maybe a university or whatsoever, you get a job and you get a
yeah,
job which is stable, you perhaps don't
yes,
tune into what do I actually want to do, but, what's a good job, parents will say, well, do that,
yes,
you'll be safe. And then you realize that there's a whole part of you which has never actually been
mm,
seen, and that part gets
yes,
bigger and bigger when we
yeah,
start thinking it's not a crisis, the midlife crisis, but it is a like, am I doing what makes
yeah,
me feel good? And is this what I want to be doing the rest of my life? And if not, what do
exactly.
I do?
Exactly. I've had a couple of clients have expressed it so nicely. One of them said, I feel like a cardboard cutout of myself. There's
Oh,
no substance to me at the moment.
yes.
And I think that's kind of, we've nurtured and cared and done the packed lunches and the dog and the
Yeah,
washing and
yeah,
all
yeah,
that stuff,
yeah, yeah,
made sure everybody's got what they need. And in the middle
yeah,
of all that, don't we just put our own needs to the bottom of the
we
list?
do. And often we
And
don't even really know. We
no,
don't even
exactly.
really know.
We've
We know what we
forgotten.
don't want anymore at this age. We tend to be a bit like, okay, I don't want that. I don't want that. But then,
Exactly. Yeah.
then what do I want?
Yes. And that's a
Yeah,
bit scary, isn't
it is
it? When
scary,
you
right?
think, I know something's not right, but I have no idea how to fix it.
So what
Um,
advice would you have for someone who's listening in and thinking, oh my gosh, that's
mm,
me? Because of course it is scary as well. I mean, I know quite
yeah,
a few friends who are in
yeah.
corporate and they're very tempted. They've maybe over the years
Mm.
started building on the side with coaching, or with one of my friends, a podologue, but
Oh
so
yeah.
far it's been next to her corporate job, but she would very much like to go into that. But at the same time, she's been working for the same
Mm.
company or ministry even for a certain amount of years. You're
Right.
going to get a good pension, on
Yeah.
your own, it's
Yeah.
scary. And then you have all the self-doubt as well. Well, oh, there are so many of them out there, who needs
Mm.
me? That sort of
Yeah.
stuff. So what's your advice?
My advice is, and I'm saying this not to drum up business, but is to find somebody who can help you. It doesn't have to be a paid coach, a mentor. It could be a very wise friend. It
Yeah.
can be any, there's support groups, all sorts of things available to everybody now. So if you know that you have a burning desire to do something different. You
Mm.
might know I've had people come to me saying, I just really want to run a yoga studio and I want to have all these alternate therapies. That's great. They've got the dream, they've got the vision. If you haven't got the dream and the vision, it is in there.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
want to say.
Yeah.
It is in there. You just need some help to uncover it. And that's what people like you and I do, isn't it,
Right.
Julie?
And I
You
mean, it
know,
is, I mean, I would say, friends are great.
mm,
But at the same time, they have an idea of who you
yes.
are. And often with the best of intentions, they
Mm,
will say, oh, but, don't, you might be left with nothing. What about your
yes.
pension? So
Yeah.
it's by goodwill. It's not people who don't want us to shine and have our own
No,
business or change,
absolutely.
but it is in a desire to protect. But
Yeah.
so sometimes friends are not always the best. And also because they have a very clear idea of what
Mm,
who you are and what you can do based on what you've done in the past, whereas there
mm,
might be a whole part of you. So that I do personally find is the value of a neutral coach, somebody
absolutely.
who will just
Yep.
ask the right questions, and then you get to your own decision, your
Yes,
own answers, right?
absolutely. Somebody who doesn't have an axe to grind, as we would say in the
Yeah.
UK, either way. They just want you to
But
find your
one other
truth.
thing I do like very much was the idea of you doing, this midlife and change of career thing, is that it also gives a sign of hope. Because I think lots of people feel
Mm,
a bit like, okay, I'm 55 or
oh,
57. I don't
yeah.
want to do this for the next 10 years of my life. But then
Mm,
they decide, well, nobody's going to want them anywhere anyway, and do nothing.
right. Oh, yes,
So,
absolutely.
starting a whole company or a
Yeah.
little business or whatever, it doesn't have to be a multinational, right? Is
No.
it's the there is a forward-looking thing. It's a bit like, well, I mean, I don't know about England, but I was reading the other day, and I do need to check that data because it seems really incredible to me, but that the average life expectancy for a woman in the Netherlands is 93.5.
Wow. Yes. Yes.
I'm a bit
I
like,
mean,
that's
I've
a long
noticed
time to live, right? We better be
it
doing
is.
what we want to do.
Yes, absolutely. You know, in the UK, you know, over the last few years, the pension age for women has
Yes.
gone from 60 up to 66,
Yeah.
66 and so many months or something.
Yeah.
You know, so in the past, when you were 50, thinking, well, I've got another 10 years, then I'm going to get my pension.
Yeah. No. Us
That's
too at
very different
67
to
here.
thinking I've got potentially another
Yeah.
16 to 20
Yeah,
years. And oh
but
my
also it
God,
means we have so
I
many years
don't
in
want
front
to
of
do
us, right?
this
We're
for
not
the
going to
next.
just sit at home. We live
Yeah,
that much longer. It's not now
yes,
that the time is where you're more or less, knitting boots for your grandchildren and thinking about
yeah,
the end. Absolutely not. We might have
no,
20, 30, whatever years in front of us.
exactly. Yeah. And I
Okay,
don't.
so but
Mm.
so when in your coaching you do the career part, as in what could you do?
Yes, yes. Where's your purpose? You know, what's going to
Mm,
fulfill you? And it isn't that I encourage everybody to become self-employed, not at
no, no,
all.
no, no, no,
You know,
no.
for some
Yeah,
people, they want to take a step back and have a, you know, a little bit more time for themselves doing
right.
some voluntary, whatever it is, you know,
Yeah.
and more money, whatever it might be, you know, it's whatever's right for you. But, you know, because of my journey, because of becoming self-employed and learning how to do all this marketing stuff, to become an
Yeah,
entrepreneur,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, the
yeah,
coaching
yeah.
bit in a way is, I won't say easier, but it's clearer. Let's put it
Yes,
that way.
yes.
Yeah.
And the
It's,
rest you're creating alone, right? What does my website look like?
oh,
If you
yes,
have one. I mean, nowadays not
yes,
everybody has one anymore. But everything, it's then really putting yourself out there as well, right?
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, when I started doing social media posts, I really had to face up to the bit of me that didn't want to be visible. And I
Yes.
have to face that part of me every single day to different
Yes.
degrees and in different ways. But, you know, now, of course, we've got the techniques and the desire to
And
do
we
it.
learn, right? We can
Yeah.
learn at this age. We
Yes.
can learn, we can create.
Oh,
And I find
yeah.
it just so empowering, but in particular that, so you're helping women find their mission and find
Mm,
the self-courage and the self-worth
yes.
and, the
Yeah.
whole steps to how to make it. And we're contributing. I find a lot of women who do change career and choose to
Mm,
create their own thing, it's also very much using their own story
yes.
to
Yeah.
help others. And that is also the part of our life we're at now. It's a
Yeah.
contributing page, right? It's
Yes.
it's we're
Yes.
we're helping others through the wisdom and
Yeah.
experience that we've
Yeah.
accumulated over all the years.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, one of the things I sometimes say to my clients is, you know, imagine in the UK we have a program called Dragon's Den where entrepreneurs come along with business ideas. I don't know if you have the same thing in the
I've heard of
Netherlands.
it, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a panel of people and they've got money to invest. So you have to convince them.
Okay, so you're pitching to them sort of thing.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
That you and I kind of sometimes say to an exercise I do with them, okay, I want you to imagine that you're on Dragon's Den and I want you to sell the idea to me. And they sometimes find that obviously quite difficult, and I'm putting them on the
Yeah.
spot, which
Yeah.
is not always nice for them. But then I say now, imagine that there was some young person standing there making exactly the same pitch, you
Mm.
know,
Mm.
what is it that you've got that they don't have?
Right. Right.
You know, what can you offer that they can't?
Yes.
Now tell me about that.
Right.
You know,
Right.
skills, your knowledge, your
Yeah.
stability, your
And we're often
maturity.
surprised at all we know, right?
Yes,
We're a
exactly.
bit like we take it for granted because,
We do.
well, we just accumulated that on the
Yeah.
way. But
It's
when you're
just us
really
and we're used to
asked,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so
absolutely.
what three tips would you have for the audience, thinking about, okay,
Mm,
so you said, find some external
yes,
partner, right? So either a
absolutely.
coach or indeed a
Yeah.
mentor or a
Sport
friend
network,
or
whatever. Yeah.
somewhere where you can really just let those ideas out just
Yeah.
for you, because I think that's also the advantage.
Yeah.
With friendship, it's a bit like, okay, now it's your turn. How are
Yeah.
you? Whereas there, it's like a little gift. It's just us. Oh, we're just focusing on us.
Absolutely. Yes. And we want nothing more than you to find your
Yeah.
truth and have the courage to follow it. So I think my other biggest tip, and it's the thing that takes the overwhelm out of all this, because once you get your idea and you think, okay, I've got a bit of an idea, but where do I start? How do I go from where I am now, maybe in paid employment,
Yeah.
to being self-employed, to running my own company? It's like, and all the ideas, all the
Mm,
things that could go wrong. It's like watching a
mm.
washing machine spinning, isn't it? And it's all going
Yes.
on in your head.
Yes.
So one of my biggest tips is to do a timeline. Sit
Okay.
down with a big piece of paper, say to yourself, where do I want to be in 12 months, 18 months?
Right.
And then pick out the different elements. So, okay, if I want to have my business up and running, what am I actually going to sell? What's
Right.
my product? What's my
Right.
service? How many clients, or how much
Yeah.
business do I need? How much money do I need to make to pay my bills, to pay
Right.
my taxes?
So it's very
Um,
practical, right? Very,
it
very,
is
yeah.
absolutely. And but putting all that information down, it turns it into a logic
Yeah.
exercise.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
helps to take the self-doubt and the emotion out of it.
Right.
I'm going to have these two products. I'm going to sell them for this much. If I want to make, 3 grand a month, 3,000 a month for the first year, I'm going to have to sell that.
Right.
Uh, find 3 clients a month at £1,000 each, for example. The numbers really help to
Yeah.
focus the mind. And then, of course, you're thinking, okay, so who am I selling to? Where do
Yeah.
my clients hang out?
Yeah.
If you want to, if you want to sell something, a service to professional coaching for professional women, maybe Instagram isn't where they hang out.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
example, do you want to do the whole TikTok thing and the funny videos, or do you want
Yeah.
to, you know,
Yeah, but that is
I'd
the
rather,
huge advantage, right? Because
yeah,
by focusing on a niche which is similar to who you are, there's all that credibility and knowing,
yes,
you
yes,
don't go about it in the same way. You don't have the same fears. You don't have the same mindset than younger people. So it is really important to have someone
yeah.
who understands what you're going
Absolutely.
through, right?
Yeah. So yeah, getting that clarity, whatever you're coaching or whatever, selling widgets, whatever you're doing, it's about
Yeah.
finding your ideal client. And, as part of that whole exercise, in effect, it's a mini business plan. What makes
Yes.
me different? What problem am I solving? All
Yes.
those kind of
But
things.
broken down into little bits, because my own
Exactly.
experience with most women is when you say figures and business plan, it's a bit like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, you see, I can't do it.
No,
Whereas
that's
all it
right.
is it's a concrete, okay,
Yeah.
what do we need? When
Yeah.
do we do it, etc.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
when I sit down in a coaching or a series of coaching sessions and we start to map this out, I'm asking the questions, I'm recording it for you, I'm helping you
Okay.
build up this document. So
Right.
again, just taking the overwhelm. But once you can start to see the picture on paper,
Yeah.
the overwhelm, it becomes more real. And then of course you've got, okay, so if this is going to happen, what have I got to do? I've got to really develop my product, I've got to really research, I've got to do this, I've got to find funding. You go through all the different areas.
It's super
um,
exciting, right, to do that,
oh, it's
especially if
wonderful.
if you haven't had it so far. It's your baby, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a huge, thing earning a fortune or whatsoever. You decide yourself, what you
Yes.
want out of it, and so
Yes.
what needs to be done to get that.
Absolutely. And of course, I don't know about you, Julie, but I find with the women I work with, sometimes they've got a bit more freedom. The kids have grown
Yes.
up.
It's a perfect time. Yeah, I was going to
Exactly.
ask you about that because that
Yeah.
was your title, right? That
Yes,
it's the perfect
exactly.
time to do it.
Yeah.
So go on, explain why it's the perfect time.
It's the perfect time because you've got bags of life experience. You've got more skills than you probably even appreciate. That exercise about writing down every single thing you do, because imagine you have to train somebody to do your job, will give you an idea of how much you actually do know. So you've got all these skills, you've got the maturity, you've got resilience.
Right.
You've had to deal with all kinds of tough things, kids being teenagers,
Yeah.
maybe marriage problems, all sorts of things, and you've
Yeah.
come through all that. And maybe you've got a little bit more financial freedom now. Not
Yeah.
always, to be
Not
fair.
always, no,
No,
because
not
I
always
know
by
a
any
lot
means.
exactly who've actually
No.
been through a
Yeah.
breakup. I'm in that sort of
Oh,
world where lots of them,
yes,
and often also
absolutely.
expats. So we've lived abroad our whole life. So never
Yes. And
really
that,
had a career because you move every 3.5 or 4 years. So,
yes.
then when you have a breakup, then suddenly,
Yeah.
whoa, you're alone.
Yes.
And the
And
children
that,
often then are
oh,
doing their own thing. So you're literally for the first time
yes.
alone.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say is whatever the reason, you've got the phrase I'd use is a head of steam. you've got that drive to do something, because you either don't want to sit at home being miserable because your kids have left home and you're not with a partner anymore, for example,
or because you need the money as well.
Yes, or because you need the money, or just because maybe you just want to give something back.
Yeah, and you feel there's something in you, there's something more, right? It's time for something else.
Yeah. So that's why I think it's the best time. And my journey took me to doing this. I'm in my early 60s now. And if I'd embraced the gift of midlife a little early, maybe I would have been doing this for a bit longer. That's probably my only regret.
You might have another 30 years to go.
Well, Sue, you never know. I don't plan to stop anytime soon.
No, that's also the advantage of having your own thing, right? Nobody's going to say to you, and also you can arrange your own time, which is also practical for us.
Oh, isn't it
wonderful? At this age, especially if, say, the partner is retiring or whatsoever, that you can then still have your own thing, but fitting in, ecologically with the rest as well.
Yes.
So, I mean, I love what I'm hearing, because you do the first part, as in the, who are you and what's important. And then, that's probably in line with values and all of that, which we do tend to know.
Yes, values is the other
better and better, right?
Absolutely.
We do tend to have a closer idea of who we are than we maybe had in our 20s or 30s. So you do all of that part with them. And I can imagine how reassuring it must be. I'd have loved to have you. I mean, I've been freelance for very, very many years now, also by necessity, because I was traveling, following. I was a training spouse, so that was the only way to make something work. But when you come out of corporate at this age, or suddenly have to start something for many reasons and changed circumstances or whatsoever, it's really scary. And it looks all young and fast out there, super savvy, technological, and you're a bit like, oh my gosh, I don't even have a clue where to start. So it's perfect to have someone like you. But then what I'm hearing as well is that you really take them very practically through, okay, what needs to be done when, and you basically hold their hands until they get that.
Yes. If that's what they want, I'm there for the whole journey.
Sue. Well, thank goodness. Well, I'm grateful that you discovered this through your own, drama. It's always the silver lining which comes from it.
Well, exactly.
Now, one important question, because my audience is all over the place. Do you do this online? Do you do this in Wales? How does it work?
Okay, I tend to work. 99% of my work is online, to be honest with you.
Thank you, COVID, for most of us, right?
Well, even though I've got some clients, yes, exactly. Isn't that wonderful? I mean, the fact that I've been doing Zoom calls around the world for the past 20 years meant, COVID made no difference to me at all. So yes, I've got some local clients, but most of my business is elsewhere, and that's fine, No, but it's
good for people to know. Then I'll make sure that I have the details. You have a website?
I do indeed, yes. It's www.confidencefirstcoaching.com. And confidence first, because that's
where it starts, right? That's
where it starts.
Yes, right.
Exactly.
I mean, I will make sure that I put in the show notes all the information, your links, etc. Any last words you would like to share before we wrap up?
I would just like to say, don't listen to the voice in your head, that gremlin voice that tells you you'll never do it, you'll never succeed, because it's absolute rubbish. You can succeed. So don't let go of the dream. It can happen. And I've got a little PDF document which is all about how do you transition from kind of salaried to self-employment with just kind of top tips and ideas and things. Happy to share it with anybody.
Oh, lovely. So what do? They email you, or it's via your website?
Or they can go to my website and fill in the contact form and ask for it, or they can just email Sue at Confidence First Coaching, say, please send it to me, and I will. So
there we are. And the first step is to open up to just the possibility, right? The curiosity. How does it work? Sue, thank you very, very much. Good luck to all of you out there. I would say, if you're feeling there's something more, if you're feeling you're not in the right place, it's now or never, right? We have all these years in front of us. We deserve to shine our light, to give our expertise, and to feel fulfilled in whatever we're doing.
Absolutely. And inspire the people around us, so you pass it on, which is beautiful, isn't it?
Lovely last words. Sue, thank you very, very much, and all the very best to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.